Hi, and welcome to another episode. On today's episode, the Epsons. As you know, we are operating 4 Epsons at the moment, L805 to be more specific. This machine has done around 10,000 prints, whereas this machine has done almost 20,000 prints. The main problem with them is, so far that is, each 10,000 sheets that the Epson L805 or 8L800 will have the roller shaft pin broken off. I'll show that in just a second. But now that this one, I've done some of the replacements and that continued to work for us, but now this one, the very first one that we've got, has developed a different fault. At nearly 20,000 printed pages, I'm not sure what do you call this. It's a belt of sorts. Now this belt is responsible for moving the carriage around. And as you can see, the belt usually doesn't have a one-ended ends. It's supposed to go all the way around, and now we're facing a problem of fixing this. While I don't have the belt, and the problem is that 2 of our machines have got a damaged roller shaft, but this machine supposedly has a unbroken, the non-faulty roller shaft, so I could use a roller shaft from here or a different machine that has the belt intact but has the roller shaft damaged, so I'll be separating the 2. The procedure itself is quite simple, and I'll try to demonstrate as along as I do this, in case somebody else will need to have the same procedure performed. As you open up, first of all, your paper tray. If you push the paper tray to the side, it will come off, and we will need that part off. Now, the next thing is removing a couple of screws. So we open the main compartment, if you will, and there is a couple of screws. One's here at the very end. It's not too long. So that's there. The second screw, let me see if you can see that, and I'll show you where that is just there. After you remove these 2 screws, they're all the same, you switch the machine around. Now this has a modifier in place, which I probably should make a story of some sort, but regardless, there's 2 screws that go here as well. So one's there, the other one's here. By the way, this will void your warranty, in case you were wondering. So now that we've got 4 screws out of the way, this should come out fairly easily. I'm removing the ink pad, just lifting it and putting it on the side, and I'll see if this now will voluntarily leave its place, because it should, because there should be nothing that's keeping it in place. Yeah, right, the tape. So once the tape has been removed, this whole thing just lifts up and we can get the access to our roller shaft. The part we're after is this big plastic bit right here. There's few things to take note. The easiest one of them being this part right here with this screw. So when we remove the screw, it is recommended not to lose not just the screw, but also the cover itself. It is held in place by a little hooks, plastic hooks, so you can damage them, and there is also a spring just here. So if you push it downwards, you will damage the plastic bits right there, but I'm not worried about that. And if you lose the spring, you will have a hard time, as well as if you try to load it incorrectly. So you can see how it's loaded in there. If you take it out or it falls out and you try to put it in, you can damage this bit right here, this little clip. So if that gets broken, the spring will not stay in place and the printer won't work. So now we've got 3 screws to deal with in order to take this whole thing out. The first screw is just there. Let me just double see you're seeing what I'm seeing. The screwdriver could be better. So there's the screw, there it is, that's one. The second screw is better to access, it's here. And the third one, you will have to have a very long screwdriver, because this thing right here, the pad, the diaper, is in place. As you can see, it's pretty much full. That's why that's there. So the third screw is just right there. Now, in order to remove all 3 of them, well, on this one it's straightforward. You just reach in and you remove the screw. You remove the second screw from the top. That's the easier parts to deal with. Now this one, there is a method how to do it, but basically even when my screwdriver is all the way in, it's not reaching and it's at an angle, as you can see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to force it in, squeezing this plastic part, and that will make me just reach the screw itself. So hopefully I can show you that in somewhat manageable way so you can see what's happening. There will be one more screw that needs to be removed, although it's slightly in a different place. As you can imagine, taking this screw out is the easy bit, because we will have to install it back as well. Now, if we move this aside, you'll see that just under the motor there is this shaft. This shaft goes into the bit that we need to access and need to remove, and this shaft is held in place by this plastic bit. We can move this plastic bit in order to remove the shaft if we remove one more screw. Let's see if I can show you. There we go, that screw right there. So let us proceed with the removal of the screw. This is the only screw that has a different type of thread. You will notice that, oh no, actually it's not, but anyway, that's the screw. You remove that. Now you're able to pull this, and this shaft pretty much is falling off, and that's exactly what we want to achieve. So there's the shaft. We've taken that out. Now to remove the whole assembly. It is held by a couple of plastic whatchamacallit, clips. There are a couple of clips that hold it in place, but most notably there is this bit that's attached and is holding it in place. There are several ways of removing this shell carriage, or whatever you want to call it, the paper feed, but as you can see, this one is just disconnected, so it might be easier to start from that end rather than this end, because this will be slightly more tricky. As you can see, there is some parts that go inside the metal part of it. Also there's something, well, yeah, anyway, so for me, I just like to force it out, which then leaves us with this whole assembly. So we need to take out this part right here. This whole thing is the roller shaft, and that's what's actually damaged. I'll show you where, well, it's damaged in that machine, not this machine. This is the good part. So we'll need to remove this. In order to remove this, the fairly simple way is just to pull these things apart and then it pops out. On the other end, it also is just stuck in. As you will see, there is a few things that become disconnected. That thing swings as well. So we've got a couple of parts that come into assembling this whole thing together. The main problem with this shaft, and what happens after 10,000 prints on average by our what we've seen so far. So there's a couple of things on this shaft. There's this plastic bit right here. This is where the spring is attached, and this little thing right here that you can clearly see now. So this is where the end of this, the round bit here, is getting attached. So what will happen, so what you need to do is put it on that thing, and then the spring goes between these two ends. So if we put it on one and we put it on the other, or maybe vice versa, as long as it works, it works. Right, so when this thing goes over 10,000 prints, let me just move this aside so this is easier. So when this reaches 10,000 prints, whatever, this little piece will break off, and this will cause your machine to stop getting paper in, and you will have a very noticeable cracking noises. It will just do something like and never get any paper in. So now we've got the good part out of the printer that has the belt snapped. We'll put it into the different machine. Now you can see what has happened. Right here is where the little bit was, and then it snapped clean off. There it actually is. Just this bit. I'm not sure why they went with this technical solution. You can actually see this is quite worn. And this is, by the way, the first time I'm disassembling this specific unit, so I'm actually voiding the warranty on this one. So anyway, the Epson takes about 4 weeks in total in order to get this repaired. As you can see, this is fairly easily assembly disassembly, kind of, when you know what you're doing, but obviously now all I've got left to do is replace this part with this part. As I've shown previously, we put this part onto this bit. Now we need to get the spring on. This is the spring. We'll put it on here and simply put it on there. That's it. This is now in place. And I can see a missing tooth. There we go. So that could be a problem sometime in the future, but not now, because this part right here, that with the missing teeth, it is controlled by this bit here, and this bit here is controlled by the spring, and obviously the little bit down there. So this goes in here, and it's supposed to go one way but not the other. So one way, not the other. Okay, so everything that's left to do is assemble it back. This is pretty much the easy bit, because all you do is pop it in one side and pop it in the other side where it belongs, and then you rotate it till, as you can see, it's only up one way and not the other. So you can see we're loading the bit, and I'll leave it roughly somewhere here. Okay, so time to put it back into the machine. This can go two ways. Either it will complain about something, or it will happily accept that everything's fixed and none of that will happen. That didn't go according to plan. Look at that! Magic, innit? So, when putting these things back together, is what I want to say. Obviously the roller shaft has its own position that it has to be, and therefore when you assemble it you have to wind it up to a specific point, and obviously if it's not in the point that it likes, it will flash the same way as in I'm unable to move the paper and stuff like that. And as you can see, it has some weird noises, but regardless, the paper going through has now been solved. Oh well, it lives to see another 10,000 pages maybe. As a conclusion on the Epson's L805 and L800, because they have the same shaft, and the problem will be restored regardless of the model. They use the same parts. Replacing the shaft once in a 10,000 pages probably isn't that much of a deal, but now replacing a main drive belt after almost 20,000, it seems to be the next issue, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, because obviously I still haven't replaced this one. We'll see how replacing this goes. I presume it will be a pain in the buttocks, because where we do not mess with the positioning while replacing this has to do everything with the positioning. So I can't tell where this was positioned, obviously, when this broke. Even if I try to realign it sort of way, I can only do it semi-eyeball it. That's the proper English word. So this might be the end of it, because depending on how difficult the alignment procedure is, calibrating, sorry, for the printer, it could be that obviously it could be the end for the machine, because it depends on how Epson's done it on this model, whether it needs specific software, whether it needs something else. Can it be done through the machine automatically? Maybe. I've seen this happen before, but obviously I've not seen this within this machine yet. So, as a conclusion and the evaluation of the Epson machines, they print well. They print very well. and at the cost of, well, the costs are currently skyrocketing for the new machines. I had acquired them for around £300, whereas now it's over £400, if that is, if you can find one. I think they are well worth it. Well, yes, the 10,000 pages and shaft replacement, if you're up to that, then it shouldn't be a problem to you. Obviously, depending on the media that you use, the paper type could also help to prolong its life, or the other way around, to make it worse. Because if you get a paper jam and you force it out, that's also a part of how can you break this. Other than that, I'd say these are quite the workhorses, and they've proven that with all of our usage on them. And obviously I will still use them, because I do not believe that there is a better well-made machine, even with the flaws that it currently has, to do the hard work printing type of stuff. So yes, hopefully you've enjoyed watching me fixing something for, as in not breaking something finally, and actually fixing something. And hopefully if you've got a machine like that, that will help you to eliminate all lights on problem. And now you know what happens to Epson L805 when it has printed 10,000 pages and almost 20,000 pages. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.